Hello everyone. In this video, I want to take us on a journey looking at what I consider to be the main Venus aspects and phases in this Venus in Leo retrograde period that we're on the cusp of right now. In just a few days, early next week, Venus will reach 12 degrees Leo. That's the shadow degree. That's the degree where Venus will move back to at the end of its retrograde journey. There are several essential points and periods during this journey, so I'm going to identify them and offer a perspective on what the core themes are. Let's start with just appreciating we're looking at Venus retrograde in Leo. So before we add the aspects and any other phases, let's lay this foundation. Venus is always going to bring us more within. The retrograde journey is inviting us to look at our own inner relationship to ourself, our own values, deeply reflecting on our relationships as it's a reflection of our ongoing soul growth. Of course, we have the more external dimension of important relationships showing up, essential dynamics manifesting within our relationship experiences, but really it's pointing us back to how can we live a life that feels livable and enriching for our soul journey. Now, Venus retrograde in Leo is really asking us to claim the beauty, the joy, the light of our own being. And the dynamics manifesting are at the core pointing us to deepen our self-value, our self-worth, our self-esteem, our dignity, our deserving, to manifest ourselves, our creativity, our hearts, our joy in this world. It calls us deeper within to find our courage, our confidence, our self-trust. The pieces that are healing along this journey, as per any Venus retrograde period, will be the entanglements and psychological dynamics that keep us either hooked in what I need from the world, how the world needs to treat me, what I need from the outside in order to feel good about myself, what I'm needing or demanding or expecting from others, from the world, from my relationships, so that I can feel the way that I want to feel. Venus retrograde brings us within. The trap with Venus retrograde Leo really speaks to a quality of either one, pride, where we tell ourselves, I'm not going to open my heart or give or love or share because they don't care about me or they don't deserve me, right? Or where we're so addicted to and attached to the feeling of being loved and seen and adored and appreciated that we're just waiting for that. I'm waiting to feel good about my life for that time when someone really sees me and loves me. And this can also speak to where we get stuck in these dramas in our life of I need you to be this and I should be this. And these distorted notions of loyalty, of I'm being this for you because I care and I see you and I expect you to be this for me, where we demand the world to give to us what we think we are entitled to receive. And it's the opposite. The teaching with Venus retrograde in Leo is our work is to know ourselves and extend our love, to give ourselves, to give our joy, and to determine our right, our entitlement to choose a joyful life, not waiting for the world to do it for us. There's a sort of entitlement, a healthy entitlement in Leo, which says, I'm a creative being, I'm a playful, joyful, happy being, I'm going to do what I want to do. And if we're considerate, if we're respectful, if we also respect everyone's creative sovereignty, and it's not about getting the attention or being seen or being some idea of special, but just loving ourselves, loving our life, loving our soul, and loving the gift of relationship as it's an extension in the sharing. See, the thing about relationship is we really only get to know who we are through the extension of the love that we are. When we think I need another person to validate who I am, to feel good about myself, that's a confusing idea. It's not true. It's a confused notion. But what is true is in the extending of our love, in the giving of our joy, we realize and experience and affirm that which we have on the inside. So relationships do become a vehicle through which we can really awaken to the depth and the beauty and the wholeness and the fulfillment that's inside, as opposed to staying in isolation or in a stagnant state of mind where we're just waiting to be recognized or seen or loved or treated the way we want to be treated, etc. So Venus in Leo retrograde is really taking us deeply to work through all of these things. And there's an immense amount of wealth involved in this time. Because there's an immense amount of wealth involved in this time, it might also mean we're really needing to bring a lot of our energy back within relative to where we might be overly externalized. This is because we know that Venus rules Taurus, and actually pretty much the entire time that Venus is retrograde, before and during and after it's retrograde in Leo, it's going to be squaring one or both planets, Jupiter and Uranus, almost the entire time. It's squaring at least one of those planets, which is amazing. So there's a very strong linkage between Taurus and Leo, both through rulership, but also through that square. And the energy of this square, it's a first quarter square, is I need to blossom. It's actually a very Leonian phase in general. It's calling us to break through the ice, step forward with new choices, to do something we haven't done before, strengthen our resolve and our capacities and our abilities in life. So with that combined, this really emphasizes honoring and trusting our own inherent self-value. We're looking at Jupiter, which is incredibly expansive. It will magnify these pieces that need to be seen and cleared. Expectations, assumptions, entrapments, entanglements, all the ways in which we unconsciously keep ourselves from loving our life. It's going to highlight what it needs to highlight and also open the doors potentially to help us move forward with what we are really wanting to do here. And I emphasize the word wanting. It's what do I like? What do I delight? The evolutionary journey through this Venusian Taurus quality, and Leo too, is more about what feels exciting and meaningful and joyful for me. It's not like this objective, like you should do this. It's more about a feeling experience. What do I love? What makes me come alive? That's really what it's all about. And then Uranus is all about liberation, freedom from the known. So that can actually be a very unsettling and destabilizing element from the point of view of the structural realities and what we're familiar with, but also it's bringing us towards our freedom, towards our excitement to live and love and enjoy our lives and who we are and all that we have inside. But all in all, that's a lot of change. We have to be willing to live more than survive with these kinds of trends. We have to be willing to take risks and really go for greater excitement and joy and want the freedom perhaps of the insecurity and the unknown, but the present moment sensational experience of feeling more than survival. That's very important during this time. Another key feature during this retrograde time will be its relationship to Pluto. As we'll see soon, while Venus stations retrograde, it's also going to be in an inconjunct with Pluto for several days on both sides of the stationing. And then Pluto will be forming a square with the nodes, which will also very soon move into the Libra-Aries axis. That's very active. This is the midpoint of the year-long Pluto squaring the nodes. It's happening this July. Further, Venus rules Libra. So we have the South Node in Libra healing and bringing up all kinds of relationship patterns and dynamics, with that evolutionary focus on Aries North Node calling us to claim our purpose, to individuate, healing the people-pleasing, healing the codependency, healing the internal judgment that says I'm not allowed to, or I shouldn't, or I couldn't, I have to be this, I have to fit into these Capricorn boxes. Also teaching us to really show up for our relationships. Engage fully with choice, with agency, because you're here fully as your own fully sovereign being. Don't show up because you're trying to fill a role and meet externally projected expectations. So this Pluto square in the Aries Libra axis is incredibly rich, really bringing us to meet the evolutionary requirements of our relationships and to show up and create the space in our life to be free and to be making choices because we want to from our own free will. It's such an essential and important facet of this time period. It's going to be deepening and culminating strongly during the upcoming eclipse season later on this year in October or so. So since Venus rules that South Node, it's just really emphasizing the healing of all these Libra dynamics. It's incredibly rich. So we'll want to pay attention to that Pluto squaring the nodal axis as well. Let's take a look now at the basic transits of Venus in Leo. I'm just going to be highlighting these time periods so we can have awareness of them. In future videos, I'm probably going to go more deeply into the specifics as these time periods approach. So as I mentioned, very soon Venus will enter the shadow degree. That's right here on the 19th. That's sort of like the window of the retrograde journey. Also useful to know that right now Venus is an evening star. As Venus progresses through the retrograde journey, it's going to be entering the underworld. That's that Sun-Venus midpoint, right? That inferior conjunction that will happen a bit later. So we're moving towards that time where Venus is going to be hidden, which is like the deeper internal part of that Venus retrograde journey. So Venus is squaring Jupiter for quite some time. It's soon going to move out of orb of that square. And at the same time, Titan on that square with Uranus. So here we have the first of 3 squares with Uranus in the very beginning of July. That's another important point. So if we can say Venus is entering the shadow degree, the first main strong Venus transiting event is that tight square with Uranus, early July. Now Venus is moving to station retrograde, and you can tell right now it's in an inconjunct with Pluto. Again, on both sides of that stationing, it's forming a very tight inconjunct up until around this day. And at this time as well, the nodes have moved into Aries Libra, and it's actually probably exact right here on this day, towards the end of July. While Pluto and Venus are in inconjunct, we have Pluto squaring the nodes. So that latter part of July is potent. It's incredibly potent. Mind you, Venus is still squaring Uranus. It's like it squares Uranus, shock, change, liberation, really seeing also the greater objective story, the greater path unfolding, impersonal to your own idea. It's like, what's the design, what's the algorithm when we're in touch with our own individuality? And then it's retrograde, deep revisioning, reworking, going deeper within, accessing a deeper threshold of creativity, in conjunct to Pluto, deconditioning, working through our deeper evolutionary program, facing the need to actually meet head-on the uncomfortable content of our lives, Pluto squaring the nodes, core evolutionary transitionary window for us all. So this is another really powerful time for us all. So here's retrograde. It's going to exact its second square with Uranus. Again, it never really leaves the orb of the square the entire time. So it's like Uranus is right there electrifying this whole period where it can feel like we don't really know what's going on. Like something greater is unfolding, a higher level of intelligence is at play. And it's like, you just got to surrender to it and actually jump into the current, jump into the creative flow. That's what I would say about that. So that midpoint here of the Venus retrograde journey. Now we have Venus and Jupiter in the second of their squares. And this is as Venus is beginning to wind down its retrograde. So this is another important point. We have that second square with Jupiter. Both Jupiter and Uranus now are both beginning to station retrograde, just as Venus is stationing direct. This is another very distinct phase, the very end of August, beginning throughout September, really. So Venus is stationing direct, and now Jupiter is retrograde. The remainder of this journey, Venus moves through Leo and will square Jupiter and Uranus once again, form an inconjunct with Jupiter, with Pluto once again, and then leave into Virgo. So hopefully this provides a general philosophical overview and sort of a concrete mapping overview of this time period that we're entering in now. Thank you for watching.